Hi guys, Claude here from Ketopower Fitness. So today I want to talk about the difference between the keto diet and calorie restricted diet. Okay. Um, so one big difference that you'll feel doing the keto diet is you get to eat until you are full. No calorie counting. That's not the point. What we do is we do restrict certain foods but not the amounts. And it might sound a little counterintuitive, but we'll talk about how that works a little later. If you're doing a calorie restricted diet, basically you're gonna stay hungry, okay? You're counting calories, you're eating a bit of everything, maybe restricting a few things, but basically you start your meal and you're doing the portions so that you're not getting enough calories to feel full, because if you felt full at that amount of calories, then you would probably wouldn't be considering going on a diet because you'd already have the amount of calories that you need and you wouldn't have put on any weight, which is one of the main reasons why people diet is to lose weight. They say lose weight, but most of the time what they want is to lose body fat, which is can be quite a bit different. Okay, but generally speaking, we'll call it lose weight because that's what people do, but that's not exactly it. But you and I know that. All right. On keto, you'll also eat less often. Now you're going to eat less often when you're transitioning to ketosis. That might feel like it leaves you hungry, you want to eat. But eventually, as you gain the ability to produce ketones to get the energy you need throughout the day, then you end up eating less often because you don't feel the need to eat as often. On a calorie restricted diet, chances are you're going to snack more often. Um, you're going to be hungry more because you didn't eat enough. So basically leave the table, you're already hungry. You'd already want to eat some more. So that gets quite difficult to do. Okay, psychologically, that's tough being hungry all the time, and that's not what we want. We want to make it easy, and that's why on keto, you're not going to be hungry. Okay, now you got to distinguish between being hungry and just having a craving for something because those are two different things. Also, on a keto diet, you end up with more energy for your body, mind now. And on a calorie restricted diet, basically it stores energy for later. Now, the reason for that is on a keto diet, what we're going to do is we're going to restrict foods that stimulate insulin. And insulin is something that your body produces. And one of the functions it has, it opens up cells and helps the energy get into the cells. Now, if you're going to eat and require that energy right away, that's fine. But if you're like most people, you're working in the office, you take a break for lunch, and then you sit back down at your desk, you're not going to be using that energy right away. So what insulin is going to do is going to store it as glycogen and it's going to store it as fat, um, so that you can have that energy for later, which means that shortly after your meal, that you get a bit of a spike of energy and then it gets stored, and then your energy levels, your glucose levels might drop down, and then you feel a little weak, you feel the need to snack. On keto, basically all that energy does not get pushed so much with insulin into storage, so it remains available. Okay, so that's an important distinction because you're not going to have that kind of tanking effect where you're feeling a little weak or you're feeling like you could use a snack. So this is why you eat less often on keto. The philosophy is on keto is to exclude and limit certain foods, and those are the foods that stimulate insulin. On a calorie restricted diet, the philosophy is everything in moderation. So you can have a little bit of everything, but don't have too much, and you never feel full. Now, that might be okay for the short term, but what we've seen time and time again is that you can't maintain that long term, always feeling like you're not quite full. It's like having an itch you can never scratch. that psychologically that gets to you after a while. Okay, whereas it's easier for people to give up certain foods, especially one of the adaptations, and we're going to go a little bit more into adaptations after, but one of the adaptations of keto is that you'll learn to burn fat, which means that you start to not have those cravings so much for the sugars, for the carbs. And so stuff that you think that you can't give up right now, eventually your body adapts and you start to crave different things. You start to crave, I don't know, bacon, pork belly, um, you know, healthy fats. So now the long-term effects of each diet. Okay, so on keto, we're talking about a diet that's sustainable. Why is it sustainable? Because it doesn't leave you hungry. You can eat until you're full and your body adapts to these foods that you eat and you don't feel the need to eat as often. Now, as you um, expand the time between meals, you'll notice that it actually becomes more difficult if you're not eating 6 meals or six times a day. It becomes difficult to eat as much calories. So basically, you may be calorie restricting a little bit, but just by the fact that you're not eating as often and you're not spiking that insulin as often. On a calorie restricted diet, it's not sustainable because you can only feel hungry for so long. Some people might be able to do it. The average person will not be able to be hungry after every meal, leave the table hungry, and then resist the urge to eat when their energy is tanking because most of it has now been stored um, as glycogen and as fat, and now the blood sugar is low and they feel like they need to eat again. The other thing too that makes the calorie restricted diet not sustainable is that your body adapts, okay? And now the adaptation to keto and the adaptation to calorie restriction is very different. On keto, your body adapts to digesting fats. And what that means is that once you use the energy of the fats that you had at your meal, then you're simply transition fairly seamlessly to the fat that's on your body. And so you'll tend to lose body fat because your body gets really good at eating fat, okay? Basically burning fat as fuel. And that's what you train your body to do on keto. On a calorie restricted diet, you're burning glucose. So you don't get very good at burning fat. Once you run out of glucose, you tank and you get the shakes and you get hangry, like they say, and you feel the need to eat again. So the way your body can adapt to being on lower calories constantly is simply to rev down your metabolism. Okay, so if your metabolism drops, then that calorie restriction that you've been doing has no more effect because now you're not spending as many calories. So your body kind of evens it out and so on and so forth. Okay, which means you need to lower your calories even more to continue losing body fat, but then your body eventually adapts to that and drops your basic metabolism down. And that has negative effects on your health if you're calorie restricted because your endurance tends to go down. You're eating less, you're tanking more easily. And if you don't have endurance when you're doing physical activity, then your fitness also tends to drop because you don't recuperate as well. You can't do as much. On keto, your endurance actually goes up because you're getting the amount of calories you need. It's just not being stored as fat because you're not stimulating insulin. All right, so your body adapts to being able to go longer hours and hours without eating, without that drop in energy, because where does it get the food? It gets the food from your body fat. And you don't need to have a lot of body fat to go a long ways, okay? Just as an example, my typical day when I have a day off and I'll go out mountain biking or I'll go out ski mountaineering, I'll basically have a coffee in the morning and I will be exercising all day at a fairly constant high level, you know, for maybe 4 or 5 hours. And, you know, it's important to hydrate properly, get um, your electrolytes, minerals. But I only eat when I get back home in the evening. So those days I'll typically eat just once during the day, and I do fine with the amount of fat I have, which used to be a lot more than what you're seeing today. All right. So your endurance goes up, your resistance to hunger goes up, your time to recuperate from your exercise goes down. You don't need as much time to recuperate, and you also don't need quite as much sleep. You get into a deeper, more recuperative sleep when you're on keto, and you don't need to sleep as many hours as you do. As a matter of fact, we've got a newborn baby, so our hours of sleep have been cut back quite a bit. I've got to get up in the morning. I've got a few farm animals. They tend to call out around 5:30 in the morning. Typically right now I'm going to bed around 11:30 at night. I get up to milk at 5 o'clock and probably wake up once or twice during the night because of the baby. And, you know, so far so good. I have two other children that are 13 and 15 years old. And I remember doing that. That was before we had the animals. I had longer nights of sleep, but it was way, way harder when they were kids because I wasn't on keto and I needed that much more sleep and I couldn't recuperate. So, yeah, maybe looking a little tired, more tired than usual, but overall I'm doing pretty well. Okay. And if you've got better endurance and you can train a little more and you recuperate better, then your fitness level also goes up. And that creates a really positive feedback loop onto your health. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed. These are some very basic things about the two different diets. If you're interested in learning more about keto, come and check us out at ketopower.fitness. You can also sign up for a membership. It's free. Just register for the membership. The address I'll leave down below, but it's basically member.ketopower.fitness/login-2. And you can register right there. And you not only get the information from Keto Power Fitness, but also you can link up with anyone else who's on the site, a bit like a social media app. So if people want to share their stories, share their photos, you can do all that online directly on our website. It's exclusive to Keto Power Fitness. Okay, it's not like a Facebook group. You don't have to be on Facebook. You don't have to be on anything else. You just come on our site and start sharing. You get some of the best information on the net. All right, so I'll see you guys soon.